Lieutenant Maya Voss had been insulted by alien officers before. Humans were the smallest species in the coalition military, the slowest growing, the least augmented. But nothing prepared her for Commander Thrax's brand of arrogance. The towering Bertuscan warlord stood 3 heads taller than her, layered in ceremonial iron-bone armor that resonated with every step he took. He was a living mountain of muscle, proud of it, and deeply offended that a human had been assigned to his station for joint tactical integration. He made sure everyone knew, and today, he won an audience. Voss walked into the central garrison hall, expecting a routine briefing. Instead, she found at least 40 alien soldiers encircling Thrax, who stood in the center with a massive engraved polearm resting across his forearms. When he saw her enter, he grinned. A deep, guttural rumble that echoed through the chamber. "Lieutenant Voss," he boomed, "your species claims adaptability, ingenuity, endurance. But strength is something you will never understand." The crowd murmured. A few even laughed. Voss kept her face expressionless. She'd been warned about alien dominance rituals, but this felt orchestrated, deliberate. He wanted to humiliate her. Thrax lifted the polearm, a curved, bladed weapon carved from the bone of some long-extinct beast, and held it out. "This," he announced, "is the Gorith spine, a relic passed through 13 generations of my bloodline. It has never been held by a weakling." His eyes gleamed with malice. "Hold it, human, if you can." Gasps spread around the room. Voss stepped forward slowly, examining the weapon. It wasn't just ceremonial. Its density hinted at a near-impossible weight. It was meant to intimidate. It was meant to break her. She wrapped her hands around the polearm. It was heavy, yes, but manageable. Her pulse didn't spike. Her breathing stayed steady. Thrax leaned close, whispering, "Go on. Impress us, little human." That was the moment she decided she had heard enough. Voss planted her feet, tightened her grip, and to the horror of everyone watching, she began to bend the weapon. The hall went silent, so silent that Maya could hear the faint creak of ancient alloy and fossilized bone as it surrendered to her grip. Dozens of alien soldiers stared, wide-eyed, their mandibles slack or their frilled necks flushing in disbelief. Commander Thrax's grin vanished. His chest plates fluttered as he inhaled sharply, a strange Bertuscan sign of panic. He reached forward as if to stop her, but it was too late. With a controlled exhale, Maya Voss bent the Gorith spine another few degrees. The weapon trembled, then emitted a sharp crack. Gasps erupted through the ranks. Generations of tradition and ego were breaking under her hands. As the last inch gave way, Maya paused, not out of strain, but out of principle. She looked up, meeting Thrax's stunned gaze. "You asked me to hold it," she said calmly. "You never told me not to reshape it." And with that, she pressed harder, folding the weapon into a perfect V-shaped curve. Not jagged, not messy, deliberate, controlled. The Bertuscan soldiers instinctively stepped back. Some placed a hand over their chest cores. A gesture of shock usually reserved for battlefield miracles. Maya placed the bent relic into Thrax's trembling hands. He looked at it as though holding a corpse. "Ow," he whispered, voice cracking. "How did you? Humans are, you're not supposed to? It should be impossible." Maya simply shrugged. "Humans break limits before breakfast. Ask any of us." The crowd stared in stunned silence as she walked past them, unrushed, unbothered, as though she hadn't just committed social sacrilege of the highest order. But behind her, whispers multiplied. Not afraid whispers. Odd whispers. For the first time on this station, aliens were speaking of a human with respect. Thrax, meanwhile, remained frozen, his pride shattered as thoroughly as his ancestral weapon. But Maya Voss didn't smile. She didn't celebrate, because she knew something the rest of the station did not. Her human strength wasn't the real threat. Her human mind was. And soon, the galaxy would learn just how dangerous a determined human could be. Word of the bending traveled across the station faster than a plasma arc. By the next morning, Maya couldn't walk 10 steps without alien soldiers stopping mid-conversation, nudging one another, or pretending not to stare directly at her arms as if they expected them to glow. Humans had always been considered soft species here, adaptable, clever, but physically unimpressive. Maya's little demonstration had shattered a cultural assumption older than some star nations. The incident was formally reported to High Command before she even woke up. Not by Maya, not by Thrak, but by everyone else. When she entered the briefing hall, the air was thick with anticipation. Captain Reyna stood waiting, tapping a datapad against her hip. Her expression was unreadable, never a good sign. "You made a mess," Reyna said. Maya crossed her arms. "I was challenged." "And you responded by humiliating a Brituscan war chief, heir." A murmur rippled through the room. Thrak had family prestige. Prestige now bent into a V-shaped wound. Reyna sighed. "Half the station wants you exiled. The other half wants you promoted. And the Brituscan delegation is demanding a formal explanation." Maya raised a brow. "An explanation for physics." "For you," Reyna corrected. "They're insisting no human should be capable of that. They think it was a trick." Maya almost laughed. "If I were tricking them, it wouldn't have been that easy." Reyna pinched the bridge of her nose. "See, it's comments like that that make people think humans are unhinged." Before Maya could respond, the lights dimmed, and a hologram of General Arcturus flickered into view. His stern eyes swept across the assembly, then locked onto Maya. "Lieutenant Voss, report front and center." As she stepped forward, the general's voice thundered. "You have just accelerated a project we hope to keep quiet for another decade. Since the galaxy insists on underestimating humans, we will use it." Maya felt the room shift. Whispers, stares, a sense of something massive unfolding. General Arcturus continued. "Effective immediately, Lieutenant Maya Voss is reassigned to Project Echo, a covert operations initiative specializing in tasks where being human is not a liability, but the decisive advantage." Maya stood frozen, not from fear, from realization. The weapon-bending incident wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous. Something only a human could do. The doors to the restricted wings slid open with a hiss, releasing a wave of cold recycled air that smelled faintly of ozone and engine coolant. Maya had been through classified corridors before, but this one felt different. It wasn't just hidden, it was intentionally erased from the station's layout. Captain Reyna walked beside her, posture straight, boots silent on the polished alloy floor. "You understand," Reyna murmured. "Echo isn't for people who follow rules. It's for the people we can't afford to let follow rules." "Sounds like you're describing humans in general," Maya replied. Reyna snorted. "Exactly." They reached a pressure-sealed door marked only with a single emblem, a stylized human handprint surrounded by alien script. Inside, Maya found a chamber bustling with activity. Humans working alongside a handful of aliens, all in Black Ops armor with no unit markings. Walls flickered with holographic schematics, reconnaissance footage, and psychological profiles. A tall, silver-skinned alien with 4 fingers and deep-set eyes approached them. "Lieutenant Voss," he said, voice vibrating in harmonic layers. "I am Sorrel Dath, lead analyst of Project Echo. Your incident with the Brituscan commander has accelerated our timetable." Maya crossed her arms. "I'm already aware I caused diplomatic headaches." "Oh no." Sorrel Dath blinked all 4 eyelids slowly. "You caused an opportunity." He gestured to a hologram that rose above the central table, a 3-dimensional layout of an entire planet. Verdania Prime, thick forests, mountain ridges, alien architecture woven into the terrain like veins. "The Borvakian Dominion is preparing an invasion," Sorrel Dath said. Reyna added, "And the station needs someone they can't predict. Someone unpredictable by design." "Humans," Maya said. "Exactly." Sorrel Dath tapped a glowing node on the holomap. "The Borvakians believe humans are physically inferior. It blinds them. They do not comprehend your adaptability, irrationality, and strategic creativity." Maya smirked. "You make us sound like problem children." "In galactic terms," he replied, "you are." Reyna leaned in. Your mission: infiltrate Verdania Prime with a small squad. Stop the invasion force without firing a shot. Break their morale. Make them believe attacking is suicide. Maya blinked. That's impossible. Reyna smiled. That's why we picked you. And at that moment, Maya understood. Project Echo wasn't about strength. It wasn't even about skill. It was about being human in a galaxy that had no idea how dangerous humanity truly was. Maya stood as the briefing ended, and a door on the far end of the war room slid open. Four figures stepped through. Each human, each unmistakably dangerous in a different way. They moved like people who had lived through things that couldn't be explained on record. Captain Reyna spoke first. Lieutenant, meet the rest of Echo Unit. A broad-shouldered man with burn scars crawling up his neck offered a lazy salute. Sergeant Holt, ex-demolitions. Don't worry, I've mostly stopped blowing up things accidentally. The smallest member of the group, barely 5 feet, wiry frame, hair tied in a messy knot. Tilted her head. Talia Varen, espionage specialist. I can fit into spaces most species don't think a human skeleton can compress into. Maya raised an eyebrow. Should I ask how you discovered that? Talia grinned. Air vents, mostly. Then the largest of the group stepped forward, an older man with gray streaks in his beard and an aura that felt like standing too close to an unstable star. His eyes were calm, too calm. Major Rasker, he said simply. Survival specialist. I teach the things regular militaries pretend don't exist. Maya nodded respectfully. She'd heard whispers about him. Stories about impossible missions, impossible rescues, impossible escapes. A myth wearing boots. The final member approached with long strides. A woman with prosthetic legs made from an alloy Maya didn't recognize. She moved with a fluid grace. Lieutenant Kana, assure, she said. Mobility and terrain infiltration. Mountain? Wall? Cliff? I'll be at the top waiting for the rest of you. Reyna clasped her hands behind her back. Echo isn't chosen for force. Not for rank. For pattern deviation. Every species in this galaxy can predict warfare. Except humans. Holt snorted. Because we're stubborn. Talia added. And chaotic. Kana shrugged. And a little unhinged if you ask the diplomatic corps. Rasker's gaze fixed on Maya. But what you did with Thrax's weapon, that told us everything. You don't respond to threats. You respond to insults. Maya smirked. Is that a problem? No, Rasker replied. It's an asset. Sorrel Dath stepped forward again. The Borvakians will measure you by strength alone. They will expect failure. Your job is to use their assumptions against them. He tapped a button. A hologram of towering Borvakian warriors flickered into view. Massive, armored, each one built like a walking tank. They fear the unpredictable, Sorrel Dath said. Make them fear humans. Maya inhaled slowly. She looked at her new squad. These weren't elite soldiers. They were something much better. Specialists chosen for the very traits the galaxy mocked humanity for. Echo was chaos wearing dog tags, and she was ready. The dropship shuddered as it entered Verdania Prime's atmosphere, turbulence rattling the metal frame like a beast testing its cage. Outside, streaks of molten orange clouds parted to reveal a planet draped in emerald forests and jagged mountains. Beneath the misty canopy lay ancient alien architecture, stone, metal, and bio-grown structures intertwined like a single living organism. Holt leaned back in his seat, chewing a piece of gum as though they weren't seconds from landing in hostile territory. So, he asked casually, everyone ready to terrify some 10-foot war monstrosities today? Talia kicked her boots up on a storage crate. Terrify? Holt, please. We're here to traumatize. Kana snorted. They'll write poems about their fear when we're done. Rasker, sitting across from Maya, looked at her with that unsettling calm. Remember, Lieutenant, no open confrontation. Psychological break. Tactical illusions. Environmental manipulation. Maya nodded. Make them believe humans are something worse than they imagined. Reyna's voice crackled through the comms from the station orbiting above. Echo Unit, you're greenlit. Borvakian Vanguard forces are on the move. Maya, Your goal is to make Verdania Prime look cursed, uninhabitable, fatal to anyone who isn't human. Copy, Maya replied. Then the dropship jerked as landing thrusters deployed. The hatch slid open. A wave of humid forest air enveloped them, thick with alien pollen and glowing spores. Verdania felt alive, breathing, watching. Perfect terrain for psychological warfare. The squad moved like shadows into the underbrush, splitting up with silent coordination. Holt vanished toward the valley, planting seismic emitters hidden beneath layers of moss. Talia scaled an enormous root bridge, slipping into the canopy like a phantom. Kana sprinted ahead, moving effortlessly up a vertical cliffside before disappearing over the edge. Rasker knelt beside the soil, pressing 2 fingers into the ground. The forest is hollow beneath us, he murmured. Perfect. Maya stayed motionless for a moment, listening, feeling the terrain, gauging the weight of the mission pressing against her spine. 3 kilometers away, the Borvakian vanguard marched in perfect formation, armored boots shaking the ground. They were expecting prey, something weak, predictable. Instead, they were about to meet humanity, not in battle, but in paranoia, fear, and myth. Maya tapped her comm. Echo, Phase 1 begins now. Let's teach the galaxy why you never corner a creature that evolved on Earth. A low rumble echoed through the jungle as Holt's first emitter activated. The forest vibrated. Trees shuddered. The ground moaned like a wounded titan. And the Borvakians stopped marching. Perfect. The Borvakians froze mid-step, their massive frames turning toward the trembling jungle. Warriors who stood fearless before plasma artillery suddenly hesitated as the earth beneath them vibrated like something alive and hungry. Holt's seismic emitters activated in staggered pulses, creating deep, resonant groans that echoed through roots, rocks, and bones alike. No rhythm, no pattern, just raw primal sound. Borvakian instincts, honed over millennia of surviving apex predators on their homeworld, kicked in immediately. A commander barked orders. The formation tightened. Weapons raised, exactly as Maya wanted. She watched from the shadows, perched on a branch 20 meters above the ground. The glow of bioluminescent spores shimmered around her like drifting stars. She checked her wrist readout. Talia, visuals? Sending now, Talia whispered. A feed appeared on Maya's display. The Borvakians, massive and armored, scanning the jungle with growing agitation. Talia added, their comms are jittery. Holt's interference is working. Good, Maya said. Make them doubt their own sensors. Rasker's calm voice cut in. Lieutenant, the hollow cavern beneath Sector 9 is structurally weak. If Holt increases frequency by 6%, Maya smiled. It'll sound like something huge is waking up. Precisely. Do it, she ordered. On cue, Holt adjusted the emitter. The ground didn't just shake this time. It roared. A deep, cavernous bellow that vibrated through the trees. Borvakian warriors staggered back. One dropped his weapon. Another spun around, scanning wildly. Their formation dissolved into a chaotic cluster. The lieutenant in charge slammed his staff into the dirt, shouting for discipline, but his voice cracked. Maya whispered, perfect. Time for Phase 2. Kana's signal blinked. Ropes in position. Ready when you are. Maya inhaled. Execute. From a canopy, Talia dropped thin metallic cables, barely visible in the dim light, woven between trees at precise angles. Holt activated the microprojectors embedded along them. For a moment, nothing. And then, shapes formed. Tall, twisted, predatory, silhouettes of creatures that didn't exist. Illusions created from bent light and drifting spores, each one towering over the Borvakian soldiers. Eyes glowing, limbs elongated, movements unnatural. The Borvakians froze. Then one whispered, barely audible through Talia's feed. Verdanian phantoms, the legends. Talia nearly cackled. They think the forest spirits woke up. Maya murmured, good. Let them think old nightmares walk again. The soldiers began to fall back, panic overriding discipline. Maya leaned forward, voice steady. Rasker, your turn. He answered with quiet confidence, already in motion. A moment later, a cold wind swept through the trees, from a direction wind shouldn't even exist. The phantoms flickered, advanced, and vanished in impossible patterns. The Borvakians broke. Full retreat. Shouting over one another. Humanity hadn't fired a single shot, hadn't engaged a single warrior. They had simply let the enemy defeat themselves. And this was only the beginning. Retreating Borvakians crashed through underbrush, pushing aside saplings as they scrambled to regroup. Their armor clattered in disarray, a sound Maya relished. Giants reduced to panic. Tanks turned into prey. But Echo wasn't done. Fear was only Phase 2. Phase 3 was certainty. Maya scaled down the tree and crept into position, boots silent on damp moss. Verdania's forests smelled of metallic sap and electric pollen, an alien wilderness unlike any she'd trained in, but perfect for what she needed next. Kana, she whispered status. Perimeter established, Kana replied. I've set the wind triggers. They'll activate as soon as the Borvakians hit the ridge. And the sound projectors? Hidden inside hollow trunks. Even I can't see the seams. Maya smiled. Good. Halt! A low chuckle answered. Lieutenant, when have my traps not worked? There were several examples, actually. Maya decided not to bring them up. She checked the map. The Borvakians were funneling toward a narrow passage between boulders, a choke point too tempting for them to resist. High ground on both sides. Thick jungle behind. She whispered, Talia, make them hear something. Seconds later, faint whispers drifted through the trees. Not human, not alien, something in between. A language no species spoke. A warning no species wanted. The Borvakians slowed. Weapons raised. Shields deployed. Then the forest erupted. Not with violence, but with life. Trees swayed though no wind touched them. Bioluminescent vines pulsed with eerie light, glowing like veins under skin. The ground trembled as Holt triggered a geological pulse, timed with Verdania's natural seismic rhythm to seem like the planet itself was shifting. And then, the Great Lie took shape. 3 enormous silhouettes stepped into view, each taller than a Bertuscan war mech. Their forms were vague, shrouded in shifting mist. They looked like the phantoms from earlier, but now they looked real. Borvakian soldiers screamed orders. Some fired. Their plasma bolts vanished into the projected forms, swallowed by refracted light. Holt muttered into comms, Tell me that isn't beautiful. It's horrifying, Talia whispered gleefully. Maya breathed. Exactly what we need. Rasker's voice came last, low and certain. They believe Verdania is rejecting them. And the moment the idea took hold, everything else collapsed. A warrior fell to his knees. Another stumbled backward into a tangle of animated vines, harmless but well-timed. The commander shouted retreat again, but this time his voice held no authority. The Borvakians ran, not tactically, not regrouping. They ran like prey. As the last of them disappeared into the distant foliage, Maya stood slowly, shoulders relaxing. No casualties, she said quietly. No shots fired, Kana added. No evidence left behind, Talia said. No proof humans were ever here, Rasker finished. Maya allowed herself a thin smile. Perfect. Verdania Prime was safe. Not because humans were the strongest, but because humans were the most unpredictable. And the galaxy had just learned why that was far more terrifying. By dawn, Verdania's jungle had returned to its serene, living silence. Dew clung to the giant fern leaves like tiny pearls, and faint mist curled across the ground. Nothing in the forest hinted at the psychological war that had played out only hours earlier. Maya crouched on a stone outcrop, binoculars pressed to her eyes as she observed the Borvakian encampment in the valley. Overnight, their once pristine forward base had transformed into a scene of nervous chaos. Tents were half collapsed. Warriors paced in tight circles, glancing toward the tree-line as though expecting the phantoms to reappear at any moment. Their commander, once proud and rigid, now trembled whenever the wind brushed the canopy. "Report," Maya murmured into her comm. Talia replied first, voice smug. Intercepted their comm chatter. 90% of their squad believes Verdania is cursed. The other 10% thinks the phantoms are real. Holt let out a bark of laughter. "I'd pay to see the look on the Dominion High Council when they hear this." Kana added softly. "They're preparing emergency evacuation procedures. They want extraction ASAP." Rasker's tone remained steady. "They won't return. Their instincts won't let them." Maya lowered her binoculars and stretched her shoulders. "Good," she said. "They'll tell others Verdania is uninhabitable, that it rejects invaders. And they'll believe it," Rasker replied. Borvakians lean heavily on ancestral myths. "You gave them new ones." Maya smirked. "Let's make sure the story spreads." She signaled Holt. "Trigger the sky bloom." "Oh, I've been waiting for this." Holt flipped a switch. A moment later, a burst of iridescent light erupted in the sky above the valley. Quiet, beautiful, and absolutely unnatural. The glow shimmered like a cosmic aurora, forming runic-like patterns that no species recognized. The Borvakians collapsed to their knees. Some shouted prayers. Others crawled under their armored plating. Talia chuckled. "Maya, we're bullies." "No," Maya said. "We're storytellers." A faint rumble echoed through the jungle. Verdania's natural tectonics, but timed perfectly to Holt's illusion. To the Borvakians, it was confirmation. To Maya, it was checkmate. Within minutes, the Borvakian banners were lowered. Engineers dismantled equipment with shaking hands. Warriors abandoned gear too heavy to carry. Retreat became a stampede. The moment the last dropship blasted upward, vanishing through the cloud layer, Maya released a slow breath. Verdania Prime was safe. Reyna's voice crackled through comms. "Echo unit, mission accomplished. 0 casualties. 0 shots fired. You've set a record." Maya smiled faintly. "Let's go home." As the squad regrouped and began their trek back to the extraction point, Talia spoke up. "You think this will change how the galaxy sees humans?" Maya looked back at the empty valley, at the proof of what fear and imagination could achieve. "Maybe," she said, "but I'm more interested in what comes next." Because the galaxy had underestimated humans for the last time. Maya expected fear. She expected hesitation. She expected, at best, for the squad to scatter the moment the Borvakians began their march toward Verdania Prime's comms tower. What she didn't expect was silence. Pure, focused, disciplined silence. Captain Reyna stood at the front of the human formation, if one could call 8 people hiding behind rubble of formation, and lifted one hand. The entire squad went still. Their breathing slowed. Their posture shifted. Humans didn't need pheromone signals like the Syrinx or telepathic sync like the Velthari. They had something else, an ability to collectively focus under pressure so intense it broke other species' minds. The Borvakians, towering brutes in obsidian armor, approached with arrogant confidence. Their footsteps made the ground vibrate. Their tusks gleamed. Their war chants echoed across the ruined valley. "Remember," Reyna whispered, "we're not matching their strength. We're not matching their speed. We're using what they think they know about us against them." Maya nodded. This was the core doctrine of the Human Adaptation Strike Team, weaponizing alien assumptions. When the Borvakian commander stepped into view, Maya felt her shoulders tense. He was bigger even in Thrak, almost 3 meters tall, layered in heavy armor, carrying a shock hammer that could pulp a hover tank door. He raised the weapon and roared, fully expecting the tiny humans to flinch or flee. No one moved. Reyna gave a small signal, and then the humans acted, not with brute force, but with physics. A timed burst of sound, a reflective drone array, a sudden shift in atmospheric pressure from synchronized microthrusters. The Borvakians froze, confused, their senses overloaded, their armor recalibrated, their formation staggered. To every alien species watching the recorded footage later, it looked like magic. To humans, it was simple. When you can't beat someone at their game, change the rules. Maya stepped forward into the dust, her posture steady, her voice calm as she spoke into the translator. "You wanted a demonstration of human capability?" she said. "Here's lesson one. We do the impossible because we refuse to accept that it's impossible." The Borvakian commander, disoriented and suddenly very unsure of himself, lowered his hammer. For the first time, he hesitated, and that was all the humans needed. The Borvakian commander's hesitation spread like wildfire through the ranks. Soldiers who had charged into Verdania with confidence now glanced at one another, uncertain, their instincts screaming that something was wrong. Humans weren't supposed to manipulate perception this thoroughly. They weren't supposed to appear larger than life, faster than sight, smarter than strategy. Maya didn't chase them. She didn't raise her weapon. She didn't even move toward the enemy. She simply stood, shoulders squared, watching as fear worked its way through the alien formation. Holt's seismic emitters pulsed softly, timed with Talia's audio distortions. Verdania's jungle seemed alive, moving and breathing with a purpose that mirrored humanity's intent. Trees creaked and shifted subtly, vines drifted like spectral tentacles, and faint lights flickered along the mist-shrouded forest floor. The Borvakians stumbled into the illusions, each step breaking their confidence further. Some tripped over roots that weren't really there. Others swore they saw enormous shapes darting between the trees, shadows with glowing eyes. Maya tapped her comm, Phase 2 complete. "Begin extraction," Rasker's calm voice replied. "Commander, they're breaking faster than predicted. Their morale is shattered. They're retreating in disarray." From the ridge above the valley, the Borvakians turned, their armor clanking as they scrambled to regroup. The commander raised his hammer again, but it was too late. The illusion of omnipresent threat had taken root. His voice, once commanding, faltered. Orders were ignored. Units scattered in panic, retreating toward the distant landing zones. The humans moved as a single shadow, weaving through trees and rock outcroppings, never firing a single shot, never risking direct confrontation. They were phantoms themselves, ghosts of human ingenuity, bending perception, exploiting instinct, rewriting the rules of engagement. Maya paused for a moment, scanning the horizon. Verdania Prime was safe, the Borvakians defeated not by strength, but by imagination, calculation, and timing. She allowed herself a small smile. "We didn't just win. We redefined what it means to fight." Talia grinned beside her, and scared them enough to write scary bedtime stories for the rest of the Dominion. Holt chuckled. "I'd pay to watch Thrak's face if he saw this. Still bent weapon and all." Maya's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Let them learn. Let them remember. The galaxy must understand humans aren't weak. We don't just adapt. We dominate by thinking, not by brute force." Rasker's gaze lingered on her. "That is why humans will always be unpredictable and dangerous." From the shadows of the jungle, the squad moved toward the extraction point, leaving behind no trace but shattered morale and whispered legends. Verdania Prime had been saved, and the humans had taught the galaxy a lesson it would not soon forget. The extraction ship hovered silently above Verdania Prime, its engines stirring the thick jungle mist as Echo Unit filed in, one by one. Maya watched the planet below, lush, alive, and free of the Borvakian threat. Not a single shot had been fired. Not a single human life had been lost. And yet, victory had been absolute. Captain Reyna greeted them as they stepped aboard. Mission report, flawless. The Borvakians will not return for decades. They believe the planet is cursed. They will tell stories, exaggerate their fear, and avoid humanity at all costs. Maya allowed herself a faint smile. "Fear is a tool," she said. "We didn't destroy them, Reyna. We taught them." Rasker nodded, leaning against the bulkhead. "And what they learned will outlast any weapon. Humans are more dangerous than the galaxy admits. Not because of strength or firepower, but because of their creativity, stubbornness, and ability to exploit weaknesses no one else sees." Talia, perched on the edge of a console, added, "We didn't fight the Borvakians. We made them fight themselves. That's art. Holt laughed. Art that terrifies, yes, but still art. Maya's gaze shifted to the stars beyond the viewport. Humanity's legacy wasn't about being the fastest, the strongest, or the most numerous. It was about being unpredictable, innovative, and relentless. In a galaxy of towering warriors, telepaths, and energy-shielded titans, humans carved victories through ingenuity and sheer stubborn will. Verdania Prime was only one example. The galaxy held countless threats, countless battles, and countless moments where humans could tip the scales in ways no one else could anticipate. And Maya Voss intended to make sure the legend of humanity grew with every encounter. "Echo Unit," she said, voice steady and commanding. "Remember this. We don't just survive. We show the galaxy why humans belong among the stars." The squad nodded, each of them carrying the quiet weight of their triumph. They had not only won a battle, they had reshaped perception, demonstrated the human advantage, and left a mark on Verdania Prime that no alien would forget. As the ship lifted off, Maya allowed herself a brief reflection. Commander Thrax's weapon, bent in half, had been the first statement. Verdania Prime had been the next. And there would be more. Challenges to test humans' creativity, courage, and cunning. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for centuries. No longer. For in every shadow, every plan, every heartbeat of human ingenuity, there was a simple truth. Humans were unpredictable, unstoppable, and essential. And Maya Voss, lieutenant turned legend, had just proven it.